So are you actually enjoying playing?
It's doing a 26-week tour, I believe, but not with me in it. That's why Colin's here.
How are you finding the 10 weeks? Are you enjoying it?
Very much, yes, but 12 weeks will be plenty for me. I reckon that at my age, that living out of a suitcase, it gets very exhausting after a bit. Luckily, I've got a wonderfully enjoyable company to work with. A lot of youngsters who this is their first job they've ever had, and they're superbly enthusiastic and they work very well. With very little kudos, of course, because if you're in a Dalek or you're in a Cyberman skin, you nobody can see your face, so nobody can say, wasn't he good? And yet they still work beautifully. I mean, you've seen the show. Were you there this afternoon?
We saw it in London on April the 1st. We're coming again on Saturday evening.
Oh, yeah, well, that should be a good one. You came, what was that, the first night? No, in London.
It was your last evening in London.
Evening. Oh, yeah.
London.
But, they manoeuvre those Daleks about. It's a damn tricky thing to do because they have to flash the light, use the eye, spin the turret, work with their feet. They're strapped in, so they've got to do all the manoeuvring and move it with their bodies. It's not easy. Especially when you have very short people like Stephanie, we've shut in, of course, her feet can't even reach the floor. That's why we have to manoeuvre her about.
Is the play going to change at all? Because we're hearing sort of like rumours that the play has actually changed since London.
It's changed entirely. We saw it this afternoon, anybody?
I saw it Monday.
Well, we've done a whole new scene, which we rehearsed this morning. When you're doing a tour like this, you're all the time, you're chopping and changing, and I'm making suggestions to the company manager, and then we go ahead and do it. We changed. Do you remember the Bar Galactica scene when Madame Delilah sings her song? Well, that was being denigrated entirely by everybody messing about and nutting each other and knocking each other and falling about, and that's out now. So she now gets us a big backup with the mercenaries. They are in slight awe of her, but it's her song, and now it's 20 times better. And then today we put in a whole new bit because when the mercenaries attack the Daleks, and that scene where I kill the Daleks with the carbon dioxide, it was very messy because there's only one zap light, which went point, as a big sort of flashlight, and everybody had to hit the same mark. Well, it looked silly, one mercenary after another going and hitting the same mark and going zap and dead and zap and dead. Now they all die in about 10 seconds. They come in fighting and the Daleks go wow wow and just wipe them out, and so that's much better. The fight sequences, instead of denigrating people's wonderful leaps and falls, Wolf Christian is this great big guy. We throw him around like a cotton ball. And he just goes, you just got to pick him and he just goes over, bang, on his back, and the whole stage shakes, as you see. Well, that was being spoiled, too many people were doing it. So I cut them down a lot, and so the whole show is much shorter than it was. Colin said that they didn't even recognise it. It's so different.
How much input do you actually have in the writing of the original script?
I had a lot of input.
Was your line the egg whisk and the thing?
Oh, sure. All my lines of sort of the big laugh lines are my own ideas. Terry was all for it, of course, but he probably couldn't remember them. But the things that I know, like reversing polarity with the flow, of course, Colin said, that'll have to go, but he's now already changed it, something which fits in with his era. So,
Are you still a regular watcher?
No, not really, but I got out of the habit of watching it. Well, I must be honest with you, I never had the habit of watching it, except when I was on. But I'm my type.
Do you like it? What do you think?
I didn't to begin with, no, because I think that because I've always kind of been a firm believer that Doctor Who must be played straight down the middle, and I think that if you poop it up, you just lose everything. And I think to begin with, it was really a bit silly. This is not being sort of critical of Sylvester. I think it's splendid. And no, and I'm talking about Sylvester McCoy. No, when Tom Baker was on, actually, I was doing Wurzel. So I'm on at the same time. In fact, it was my programme, Wurzel, which knocked Doctor Who off the Saturday viewing time. Because we knocked Doctor Who absolutely sideways. We were getting 12 million views a week when they were getting 7, 6. So they shifted their times to, I think it was Friday, wasn't it? Doctor Who was on for about 2 or 3 years. Yeah. And so I was so busy doing Wurzel, and I was watching Wurzel on Saturday that I naturally wasn't interested in watching something that I was dead and buried as far as I was concerned.
Did it take much persuading for you to do 5 Doctors?
No persuading at all. I couldn't wait. Oh no, that was wonderful. Of course, David Banks was in it. He played a cyber leader in it. And, Oh no, I couldn't wait to do that. You know, with everybody coming back, that was marvelous fun. I mean, how the poor director managed to hold us all down, gosh. Because we were arsing about and practical joking each other, and Pat and I'd always been like that, you know, but we were tremendous friends. And all this rowing and niggling that went on in conferences was all a put-up job, of course, because Pat and I were devoted to each other. That would never have gone to any convention if it hadn't been for me. I just waited to go. He was very introverted, very shy man, and didn't want to know about it.
Did you know Patrick Trump before Three Doctors?
Oh, God, yes. I know everybody. I've been in the show business so long, there's nobody I don't know, really. The people I don't know are the young people. I don't know any of the young actors, really, unless I've now met a bunch in this production. But usually in plays that I do, they usually, if somebody my age is playing a lead in it, it's probably of an older age group. And so I would know those, and all the sort of kings of the theatre and the queens of the theatre I know, of course, because I started with a lot of them.
Had you worked with William Hartnell for the Three Doctors?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Oh, years and years ago. I mean, I've made over 100 and something pictures, and of course, I was in films with Bill Hartnell, and then Bill broke away and became tremendously big in the picture industry. And then he fizzled out, and then he came back up again, the Doctor Who. And then, of course, he died. Well, we were making Three Doctors, we just after.
Going back to the play, have you got any favourite part of the play, any particular scene that you personally enjoy doing?
I always enjoy reminiscence, and I always enjoy silence. I love to hold an audience absolutely quiet. It's the greatest challenge for an actor, to be able to make somebody roar with laughter 1 minute, then hold them right down, and then let my voice go quieter and quieter and quieter. You have to listen very carefully, because if they immediately start, the noise of the audience starts to rustle, and people start eating popcorn, you know you've lost them, and then you have to give more volume and speed it up. So my favourite bits are always the quiet bits. I like the little scene with the girl at the end sitting on the steps and telling her about travelling in time and space. That's all since you've seen it, incidentally. I like the little thing about Winston Churchill. But which I made Terry write in for me. We took bits. We had a lovely thing in one of the Doctors where I was... what were we on about? It wasn't Sir Walter. There was one with I was talking about when I was in the Tower of London with Sir Walter Raleigh. Yes, in Mind of People. We took the sort of spirit of that, and then there was another one of a hermit.
Oh, living up on the mountain.
Up on the mountain,
yes.
That's right. Well, this was rather the same atmosphere, attitude we're trying to get here.
And of course, Napoleon in the Day of the Daleks.
Oh, that's right.
Napoleon.
Yes, as I said to Bernie. Yes, I like those. Those are my favourite bits. But you can't really, it's not. It's the way this is written. It's written as a high-speed adventure story, and there's no real meat in any specific scene. I mean, they love the French Revolution scene. That always gets tremendous applause because there's a lot going on. There's good sword fights, and that guillotine effect is very good. They like the flying about with the Sentinel and the magic bits. But to act, I mean, there's nothing. I mean, it's nearly all one-liners. There's very little getting down to heavy acting in the show because you just haven't got the time for it. You've got so much to go through, and you're just going to carry a story along with speed.
If it does go to the West End, would you consider carrying on?
Oh, that's why I'm not going to Australia now. I was going to Australia with it, and I was going to have a couple of months off, go to my home in Colliers, the Balearic Islands, and take 2 months off, and then come back and go out to Australia and rehearse up with them, and then tour with them for about 3 months, and then come back and do the Christmas season in London. But my wife decided for me. She said, well, I hope you enjoy yourself in Australia. And I said, what does that mean? She said, well, I'm not going. She said, I'm fed up. I don't want to travel anymore. Because I've been dragging around like a gypsy for years. I work a lot in America and a lot in Australia and in the past and in the last 3 years in New Zealand doing Wurzel. And she said, I've got a home and I'm never in it, and we've got a home and a son and I'm never in it, and what the hell's the point? She's a writer, my wife. She's writing a novel at the moment, which is going to be a historical tome, and it's going to be a big book, and it's going to take an awful lot of work. And she said, I just want to work. I don't want to travel around again. You go, but I said, well, I'm not going on my own. So that was decided. So I decided not to go to Australia, to have a lovely long holiday in the summer, and then come back into this, if we get a West End theatre. We had, in fact, Louis Benjamin, who runs the Palladium. We had his daughter in today to report on it. Typically, of course, when you get somebody really important in, they arrive 10 minutes late, which does not give you a very good opportunity of showing what the show is like. And if he turns it down, I shall write him a letter saying it would be very much kinder and more efficient if your daughter had arrived on time to see the beginning of the show. It doesn't mean anything unless you see the beginning. But, I think probably Mark Finesse will do it. He's got Hello, Hello on with enormous success at the Palladium. I think that Doctor Who would do great business during the Christmas season, surely.
Would you take much persuading to do an 8 Doctors or a 7 Doctors if it ever?
Oh, no, I'd do any one of those, of course. Wouldn't make any difference. I wouldn't have so much to do, which is always a good idea. And the money's just the same. I cost X pounds, irrespective of whether I'm on every page or every 4th page.
Would you consider doing another Doctor Who play, say next year or in a couple of years?
Well, I think it really depends on what else I'm doing. I mean, you've probably all heard of the Sentinel, have you? Have you heard of this project? Jason Havlin. Havlin. I said Javelin. No, you're quite right. I put it in print. It was Javelin. Where did you read that?
I think it was in theatre.
Oh, was it? Yeah. And I got it wrong, and I got reprimanded by Chris Leach the other day that I got the name wrong. But it's a good. You've heard about the story, have you? Of it?
Well,
Not
well,
Terence Dix.
No, not at all. Oh, yes, he is a script editor. Barry Letts has also been invited to produce. But Chris is such a lone wolf that he does everything. He invites Barry Letts to be the producer, and Barry says, well, that would be very interesting, reads the script, reads the whole layout, and says, yes, I'd be delighted to produce it. Comes along the next time and finds that Chris has already produced it. Because he's such an inventive and extraordinary young man that he's cast it. He's got his programs out, and have you seen the brochures? Oh, they're wonderful. I mean, they're really expensive brochures giving a whole prospectus of the show, what it costs, what the investment would be, what the repayment would be, who's playing what the characters are, where it's being filmed, films of the location, charts of all the machinery that's being used, and the space machinery and so on. It's the most extraordinary project that he's done. And I'm only hoping to God that he's going to get it off the ground. It might be that it's going to be too expensive, and everybody's going to go over the vapours looking at what it's going to cost. But that sometimes is very weird. It goes the other way. You find that the more expensive a prospective series is, the better chance you've got of getting the money. There's some people who have got enormous and vast amount of money, and you do anything to do with science fiction, and you're onto a pretty definite seller if you make it well.
You've actually done the pilot, or is it?
We did a sort of pilot, yes. I did an introductory pilot, which means the 10-minute look straight down the bottle, me looking at the camera, saying what was going to happen. And I tell the viewer or the prospective producer the storyline and what's happening. Is it now? I'll show you the pictures of locations, and we show pictures of lovely little harbour in Cornwall where we'll be shooting it. And it's a very good presentation indeed. So I'm just hoping that that's going to work, and if it does, of course, I shall probably bother to do much else. I think that'll see me out, because it's usually a series like that, if it's anything like good, it will do 5 years. Well, that'll probably be 75, and then I might get the carpet slipper look in my eye.
So, do you know what the basic plot is for the Jason Watch? Is it basically science fiction or kind of fantasy? Or?
It's very much on a green subject like this is. It's quite a splendid idea that an old professor has discovered a secret cavern underneath Stonehenge, and in it is a vast crystal which is in link with vast crystals in every other planet. And so our galaxy is run by one central planet or whatever. There's one supreme crystal which gives instructions, or as far as sort of it's all its weather cycles and everything else are all controlled by this crystal. And the reason why we're having so many disasters of earthquakes and fires and droughts and so on, and AIDS and everything else, is because the crystal is out of sync. And this professor finds this out, and then he goes to Jason Hadlin, who's an ex-head of some nuclear department in government, and a man of great sort of inventiveness. And he said, we've got to do something about this, and lets him in on the secret, and he takes him down and shows him where this crystal is, and then they then go to a cave they've discovered underneath a Cornish fishing village. It's a vast, great cave, where the Jason Hadlin and the professor start developing machinery and all the sort of secrets, whatever they may be, of going out to other planets and find where the main crystal is and seeing what they can do about straightening the matter out. I mean, there's a rather garbled explanation of it, but so it's basically green. There's space involved in it, so you get wonderful space cars, but I don't think you'll get monsters. I mean, you'll get probably strange-looking people from other planets if you land, when you land. So, but I mean, they'll probably be maybe as enchanting as they were in E.T. or particularly in something of the Lost. What the hell's it called? What was the film where this enormous great spaceship landed? Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Well, you had that wonderful sequence where the flap comes down and those weird people come out, which I thought was the best thing I've ever seen of its kind. And they were so touching, but they looked horrific, and yet you would almost cry with emotion of these people. And this is the sort of spirit that we want to get in with the show.
And that's the plot for the series, not just...
Yes, I mean that's the basis of the plot, and then there are all the kinds of connotations involved in that, and how we get to other planets, and maybe we meet up with threats from other planets, and how we get sort of to get on peaceful terms with people and talk about things, because basically we're trying to save the universe.
It sounds very unitish in Doctor Who. You know, when you do unit, it sounds very unitish with you being the scientific advisor with unit. Are you going to have a military backup? Is it just...
No, I wouldn't think so. No. Oh, wait a minute. No, wrong. Yes, we are having a military backup, but it's a not military. It is Jason Hadlin's group. So there'll be pilots. So I mean, he's very good about this. We've got Polish actors, German actors, Chinese girl. So he's doing this deliberately to make it much more worldwide. And they will all be people who are first-class pilots, first-class scientists, first-class something or other. And that's got to make up his group. I'm not like the Doctor. I'm not the thinking side of it so much. That'll be the old professor, which is going to be played by a well-known actor whose name completely escapes me at the moment. I'm surprised you don't know who it is.
And has any company or channel wished to buy it, or which channel would it be going out on?
According to Chris, there's a lot of interest, but you can't get anything more out of him than that. I last understood it that he had some money promised from Germany, that they were very interested in it, which is strange because Germany is one of the few countries in the world that's ever taken Doctor Who. But they're very tight about what they show on children's television.
So it would be a sort of a children's program, but it'd be more...
No. Why do you say that?
You just said it's a children's program. They're careful about children, do you?
No. I said that it's always amazed me that Germany didn't take Doctor Who because they considered that Doctor Who is a children's program and therefore therefore it's too fierce for them. And but this in no way will we call it a children's program. It's essentially a family program. It'll be like that's a Chip Galactica and whatever it was. All those sort of pictures. Well, I think Blake 7, that wasn't children's, was it? That was family.
Oh, one thing I'd like to ask you, the Mythmakers videotape you've just done.
Yeah.
We saw you messing around with this sculpture that you've got. Can you tell us where you've got hold of that? It's amazing.
People have asked me that question. They all want to buy one. No. It's an American device. There's a wonderful shop called The Sharper Image is the name of the shop in America. They have them all over the States, and this is outrageous to say. It is a toy shop for rich executives. Because everything in it costs a lot of money, and it's the most wonderful gadgets you've ever seen in your life. I mean, I've got them in my pocket. I mean, I've got a thing here. Well, this is a thing. Gone off by mistake, but so the battery's flat. But that's a tape recorder, and you just carry that in your pocket. You just flip it up, and you just make notes during the day. And I make notes, and then I write them down and fax them on to my secretary. But I just use something you carry in your pocket. Little kind of tape recorder. So they sell things from gadgets like that. And this piece of sculpture is made of brass, and it's an extraordinary invention because it's all linked with sort of a little sort of ball, half ball, sprung balls and sockets, so that you can turn it, and you can just turn it like knitting, and you can make a whole different shapes with it, but just with a twist and a shake, so that you never get bored with one specific shape. You can have them in chrome, or you can have them in brass or gold. And it's always caused tremendous amount of fun. Because I said something, do you like that? And they said, yes. And I said, well, if you don't like it, change it. And I said, what do you mean? I said, just do this. And I go, blah, 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 and put it down. Because you can't see the joints where it moves. Yeah.
Your idea to bring the gadgets or to make the doctor a level of gadgets?
Very much so, yes. I've always loved gadgets, and I've always had mechanical gadgets. So I designed and had built the Hoovermobile. When we first did the first Doctor Who I ever did, if you remember, I escaped by pinching people's clothing. Now, this was done deliberately because for a front cover picture of the Radio Times, I dressed up myself in this weird outfit with frilly shirts and velvet jackets and elastic-sided boots. I had a pair of these from way back from a show that I'd done, an Edwardian show. Black trousers actually from the dinner jacket. The velvet jacket was a smoking jacket that I'd had for a long time. And that was my grandfather's cape that I wore, an Inverness cape, and the frilly shirt was very much in vogue at that time. Mr. Fish in London used to make white voile frilly shirts to wear with the dinner jacket. And so I put all these together, and everybody said, that's terrific, I love that outfit. What is it? And I said, I'm the faintest bloody idea. And they said, well, it's great. And I said, well, how are we going to explain it away? So we did it in the first one I did. Remember, I escaped out of the hospital and I stole it from the doctor's changing rooms. Then went outside, saw this old motor car standing there, which was a car called a Vauxhall 3098, which is a magnificent car in its day, very, very fast, 100-mile-an-hour motor car. And I stole it, remember the story. Well, then the Brigadier, I said to the Brigadier, may I keep that car and keep these clothes? He said, no, you can't. The doctors are wanting all that stuff back, and you give it to me, and I'll get you some new outfits, if you like that. I said, yes. So he went to the tailor and had all these things made for me. And that's when Bessie came along. I said, well, I want an old car. And so I also happened to know a friend of mine was making fiberglass replicas down in Bournemouth. And so we had this wonderful old Edwardian roadster, Bessie, which really became a very favourite character of all. They loved Bessie.
Did you have much more input in the earlier stories? Bessie...
I didn't have any input in the stories at all because you haven't got time. You see, if I'm shooting now, for example, the Demons, I finish the Demons at the end of next week, for example, and 2 days after that I'm starting on a new story. Now that story has been produced, not directed, it's been produced, which means they've done all the pre-production. So they've cast
Steve Langley to the stage, please. Steve Langley to the stage. Thank you.
They've cast it. They've got the director. They've got all the special effects, property makeup. All these people, all different from the one that I'm doing now. So, and that's all prepared. So come the Monday, there's the director, the producer, the same man comes in and says, right, okay, now we've done all this. He's already discussed it months before. So naturally, I couldn't have any input because I can't work months and do a show and do work on it as well. The only thing that did happen is on the Monday read-through, I'd read it through, and being a fairly perspicacious man, I could see where the flaws were, or if there were scenes that I didn't like, that I wouldn't be happy with. I said, no, I don't like that, I'd rather do this, that, and the other. The writers would go down on a Monday, and they'd say, okay, or they would say no, and then we'd have a little bit of punch-out, verbal punch-outs. But in the main, they would see my reasoning, and they would then go away in a corner and rewrite over the lunch hour so many different scenes. Or while we were doing it, reading it through, so how would it be if I said this and somebody said that, and you all have input, and particularly with the principals. And then that's when it's fixed. From the Tuesday onwards, you have got to stick to that script as you arranged on the Monday. And that is the only input I'd have with the script. But if, on the other hand, I went to the boat show and I saw, as I did, a miniature hovercraft, and I said to the fella, if I'm play a character called Doctor Who, he says, you don't have to tell me, I know. And I said, well, how would you like to have one of your machines on television? He said, any time. So this is why, right throughout my era, we had those jet ski boats, we had that big, I own all of them. I've got them all up in my place in Spain. All those things you see, I own.
Didn't Humberville?
Oh, I could, yeah, the Humberville. I gave the Humberville away to a young man who lost his mother in a tragic accident, and he's a sweet young man, and he keeps the Humberville magnificently. He's got it on a low load, and whenever I need it, I just ring him up, and he brings it round. But it's much better in there than me. But Bessie was owned by the BBC, but all the jet boats in the Planet of the Spiders, that big jet boat, I bought that, and the little ski boats, the little tiny boats we had in the Sea Devils, when Roger chased me, those I've still got, and all the motorbikes and the three-wheeler Hondas and all those things, I just bought them, but after giving it big publicity, I got them fairly cheap. And they're sort of dotted around my various establishments.
So you did a lot of stunts in Doctor Who. Is that the reason why Terry Walsh is actually in the play?
That's it, because he's my mate, and I never really do anything with Doctor Who without Terry.
He's in a lot of Doctor Who. You can spot him out.
Oh yeah. Well, he was my personal stuntman. Yeah. Not that I needed him very much to his chagrin, because he used to say, "Come on, Gabler, let me do something," and I said, "Piss off, If you do something when I have to fall over or go over a wall or something, then that's when we need you, or rolling down hills. But when it comes to riding a motorbike, I think I'll ride it until the time I'm shot, and then you get on it and you fall off. Because if I fell off and broke a leg, everybody would be out of work." So Terry was a very close friend, and he used to look after me like a baby. He never let me get into any sort of trouble with anything. He knew what I could do. I mean, with sword fighting and things like that, then he'd be the sword master, and he arranged everything in his show. He arranged all the fights, all the sword fighting, and you see him, he's the principal fighter all the time, he and the big guy. But he arranged that, and he arranged any of those big ensemble scenes Terry has arranged. He's loving it. He's never been on a stage before in his life. To begin with, he was terrified of it. He didn't like it. He said, "My God, Gary," he said, "my bottle's going on this."
You obviously see Terry Walsh. Do you see any other of your companions, like Katie Manning?
No, she's in Australia.
Or Elizabeth Sladen at all?
Liz has become a sort of devoted mum, and nobody sees anything of her at all. I think she's retired from the business. They waited long enough to have a child, or they couldn't have one until very late in their marriage, and I think she's sort of devoted mum, probably settling to have another one, I would think. But as soon as she had the child, we didn't see anything of her at all. And she and I and my wife were very close friends, but they disappeared from our lives, as sometimes happens.
Because Katie Manning came over to a convention in 1986, I think.
Yes.
And she said she hadn't seen you for 10 years, so she thought that would be an interesting meeting.
Yes, I think it would be, yeah. Yes. She probably couldn't see me anyway.
Well, that's what she said. There was a screen, actually, with you on saying that you were apologising for not turning up to the convention, which was at the Virgin Megastore when you were signing the Death to the Daleks cassette. And they said, I think it was Richard Franklin said, "Well, there was John at the screen." And she was up in the back, she said, "I couldn't see him."
Is that right?
Yeah, she didn't have her glasses on. Apparently she would bump into objects on the set. And
Katie, the only reason why she ever came with me everywhere, I went to the back of a motorbike or back of a speedboat or clambering up a tree or up the ladder, going up to the Sea Devils castles and things. The only reason why she did that was because I was doing it, and she couldn't see any further than my backside, so she followed me. I mean, she's a very gutsy little girl, but quite round the twist. But she just couldn't see. She's blind as a bat. She couldn't see any further than that.
How about Caroline John, your first companion?
No, we didn't get on. No, she wasn't. She wasn't right at all. She's an actress in the Royal Shakespeare or the National Theatre. And she was too big and unwieldy. You want sort of to have the syndrome of health doctor, I'm strapped to the railway line, you've got to be little. Really. You've got to be somebody I can pick up and throw on the back of a bike or back of a horse or whatever, like Una is with me in Wurzel Gummidge. You know, you've got to have somebody you can physically pick up, and like I did on the back of the horse with rode off into the night. You can't have some girl you can't even get off the deck. And Caroline was quite a big girl, and she was heavy.
And she seemed to know, she seemed to be on an intellectual par with the Doctor with all the technological and scientific
That's right.
skills.
Yeah.
So maybe she was slightly steaming the limelight.
Well, no, not at all. Good God, no. Listen, I'm the greatest believer in teams. I mean, otherwise I wouldn't have had a radio show that ran 20 years. And that was a team, God almighty. Look who I had in it. Ronnie Barker was my voice man. Stephen Murray, Leslie Phillips, Nathaniel Evans, Michael Bates, the great Michael Bates, who died a couple of years ago. And they were, that's big competition, but that was a team. And that's why we ran 20 years. Same with my Waterlogged Fire series, long before any of you were born. But I was with a man called Eric Barker. And we were the #1 radio show for about 5 or 6 years because we were a team and everybody pulled together. You can't do this business of just being a solo and saying, I'm not having any of these competitions. If you do, you don't last that long. Now, I can think of a lot of people in show business that insisted upon being the #1 stars. It doesn't matter, as long as the show is popular, who gets the kudos? The stars of the show. As long as I'm up the top there. So people say, did you see the Jon Pertwee show on Friday? I may have only opened my mouth 4 times, and they said, oh, bloody marvellous, I loved it. And that's what counts, that your show is successful. That's why, you know, all right, this show, it all rather hangs on me and my 2 companions. But it's something went off. Was it 5:30? Yes.
Jeff Somerton, please bring Paula's purse to the stage door. Jeff Somerton, would you please bring Paula's purse to the stage door? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
What would you say was your favourite story as the Doctor?
The demons.
Like that?
Because there weren't any obvious monsters.
No.
You know, I was never keen on monsters where you could see the zip fastener up the back.
No, you didn't like the Daleks.
No, they were silly because you only had to go down 2 flights of stairs, you got them screwed. Although I had a letter the other day, a very funny letter from America from a lot of my fans there, who said, watch it, maestro, Daleks can now go downstairs. Which they evidently they can, because they floated down some stairs with Sylvester. So I can't use that gag anymore.
You never mind working in the show, did they?
Oh, they're all right. That's fine on the show. You know, that's why I call it a lavatory plunger and an egg whisk. I mean, to me, that's what they always look like. And how they're supposed to do all that intricate work with my console, I don't know. Where they tear it all to pieces and break cables off with a lavatory plunger. You know, this is what I've never been very keen on. No, I like my favourite. There's one in this show is a Draconian. I thought the Draconians were wonderful because you used, again, it was my idea of using half masks, where it comes over the top lip and the rest of the jaw and the lower lip and the teeth and things show and the eyes show. If you blank off, that's why Cybermen are boring if they're like that, or the Ice Warriors, and nothing moves. And that I find very tedious.
You like
Who? Oh, yeah, tremendous. Yeah, that was Terry, incidentally, who I hit with a car, who went over the cliff. Remember that in the Autons? When I hit him with a car and he just went over this cliff. He bounced twice over 300 feet. He did a 300-foot fall, only bounced twice. When he got to the bottom, he lay still, and we all gasped at that, and then he picked himself up and started crawling back up the cliff. And everybody cheered and said, oh, fucking marvellous. And the director said, you cut! Oh, no, because he wanted to shoot him clambering back up the cliff. I think we still kept a bit of it in. But, oh no, the Autons were splendid. That was a really exciting thing, of that coming bursting out of those windows and all the mannequins. That was a spearhead in space, wasn't it? Yes. No, that was excellent. That was a really good story.
You like Tom Baker?
No. No. I didn't see any of them. But I didn't like it.
So much of a learn to listen to you. You have really good very private.
My lips are sealed, gentlemen. I say nothing, I just give you a lot of very meaningful looks.
How do you get on in American conventions? Do you prefer British or American conventions?
I'm afraid the British don't know how to run a convention to save their lives. Not a clue.
Yeah.
Not a clue. If you want to save yourself some money and go to a good American convention and see how they run, the excitement of it and the enthusiasm of it and the tremendous affection that people have. But the British, we're a very laid-back race, the British, and we're very introverted, and we don't really like to. I mean, I appeared at the were any of you here at the London Film Festival? You know,
Oh, the NFT.
the NFT.
Yeah.
And I appeared the other day completely by accident. Somebody rang me up and said, you know, there was an NFT in Doctor Who week, and I said, well, weekend. I said, no. So I said, I'd go along there. So I went along there, and they were all sitting down and watching, you know, Doctor Who films, and somebody said, I've got a bit of a surprise for you tonight. You know, it's Doctor Who, Jon Pertwee is here, he's going to come on, and people went, oh, like that. I mean, it was nice, they were all right, they were typically British. Oh, I see, I don't know. But in America, they stand up, they give you a standing ovation when you come on. You get 3,000 people coming from all over the United States. And they cheer you to the roof. I mean, they do here. I mean, on the Monday night here, we've got tremendous reaction on the Mondays everywhere we've been. Well, that's because all the hooligans have gone, but the very great enthusiasts like yourselves, that they're very much more introverted, the British fans. The American fans, they really give out. They're quite extraordinary. I mean, hence the word fanatics. They are fanatics. And they're all dressed up in the gear, you know, they're all dressed in their favourite doctor's outfits.
I should imagine it's very hard work, though. That they really push it.
Yes, they do. I've got a sort of system now. We all appear together to begin with and introduce, and we just sort of say hello, and perhaps we do a specially written sketch. Terry might write a little sketch involving all of them. And then I'll go on and do 3/4 of an hour talking about myself and the background and anything, stories about the royal family. Even in America, they love all that. And then I say, right, now answer questions. And I say, but you don't have to ask questions about Doctor Who necessarily. Ask any question you like. Because you really, although it's a Doctor Who convention, one can get sick of talking about that hour after hour after hour. In any case, they spend hours watching videos of Doctor Who shows, all of which they've got at home on their own videos. So what they go for, I haven't the faintest idea. But they've seen me dozens of times, and they've seen the other people that go many times. They've seen the Brigadier, they've seen John Levine, Richard Franklin, and all the people who really love to go to those conventions. I mean, even I've got Terry going to conventions now. They love him. Because he's somebody different. He talks about stunt work, and then he comes in on the cabaret with me, because I always do cabaret at night. And Terry plays guitar and sings songs, and he's a riot success. But that's with something different. But the English conventions are... And then another thing which is a little irritating too is that I've often had sort of criticisms coming at me through fan magazines, you know, saying it's a pity if Jon Pertwee didn't turn up or something to do with the convention. I have to write back and say, Jon Pertwee would have turned up if somebody had asked him. And they said, what do you mean? And I said, nobody actually got round to asking me to come to your convention. It's very easy to criticise, but he didn't turn up and say, well, ask me, and then I might. And this has happened quite often. And it's just thoroughly bad organisation. And there isn't the money about it. See, the Americans, they pay $35 to go to a convention. And then they buy all the merchandising and so on. There isn't the money about them in England like there is in America. And of course, in American too, I mean, you'll go from north of America to right down to the south of Florida, and imagine what that's going to cost him in airfares.
Yeah.
And in England, they say, well, where is it in Leeds? It's all bloody hell, I can't go up there. You know, they've got no idea. It's a different attitude entirely. But it's getting better. It's getting better.
You said that fandom is waning in America.
Yes, it is. Doctor Who fandom is waning. Far too many people ran conferences and didn't know how to run them. It's only the really big people like Norman Rubinstein who ran Chicago, and somebody else who runs in Philadelphia, and another group run in Florida, and another in New York and Canada. But then in between you'll get Atlanta, Georgia, and Tuscaloosa in the Midwest, and you know, husband, so what do they know? But there'll be a collection of fans who run the local, who get all the finances, because it's run entirely by the personal finance. It's on what they call PBS, which is Public Broadcasting System. And it's all the money that they raise themselves on these big telethons. And anything, it's only the Whovians that raise money for these telephones and run them for these PBS stations. Hardly anybody else raises any money for them at all. It's the Whovians that do. And that's how they get paid for. So they have to be enthusiastic, otherwise they don't get the program. Well, you get it whether you like it or not. It's thrown at you year after year.
Are you going to take part in the Return to Devil's End video? I understand there's going to be a Mythmaker take, which is going to be called Return to Devil's End.
Yes, I probably will, but it's very difficult, you see, because they can't call me Doctor Who. See, they got that. This is how they were able to make the John Levine one, which is called what? No, what's the one called, the one that John Levine did? One of Keith Barnford.
Wartime, I think it was.
Is it called Wartime?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. Well, I think he also changed the name. It was going to be called something else.
Yeah.
But he, but that's because John was a member of UNIT in that, wasn't he?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I think what they found, there was a loophole with BBC Enterprises that they hadn't registered UNIT. And Keith Barnfather found this out and thought, my God, if they haven't registered UNIT, I'll make a thing about you. Wouldn't it call something to do with UNIT? Wasn't there one? Is Return to Devil's End incorporating UNIT?
Yes, this
I'm
is
sure
going
it
to be this
is.
one down in old
The one we did down near Marlborough.
Yeah.
Where we did the demons.
Yes,
yeah. So I can't be Doctor Who. So I don't know. That's why I'm not sure whether I'll be in it. Oh, Keith has approached me many times, and well, yeah, well, let me see what character I'm going to be. Maybe I'm Doctor Who's twin brother.
Are you still amazed by the success of Doctor Who? Now, 26 years after it started.
Yes, but of course, it isn't the same success, is it? The figures must be right now in comparison.
Yeah.
We were in 10, 11 million, and what is it now? Yeah, you're right. It's half.
6 on
I don't think that's the case at all. I think, my radio show went on for 20 years and could have gone on another 10, but we were fed up with it. I think that if you keep a standard going, there's no reason why anything should go. I mean, what do you think about a play of Agatha Christie's called The Mousetrap in London? It's run for 34 years in the same theatre. Now that means it's never going to come off. Never. There's no reason why it should ever come off, because if they keep it going and they change the cast once a year, you've always got new people who want to see it. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. A different production, with different people in it, and we'll go and see it again. But it's not necessarily people going to see it again, it's a new audience. I don't suppose anybody's seen The Mousetrap more than once. But, I'll just, hang on 1 second. I'll see if I can just get coffee.
Thank you.
I don't know that I can. Call? Call? Okay, gentlemen, I shall have to ask you to excuse me now.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Not at all. Pleasure.